All right, so I guess we'll go ahead and get started. People can keep jumping on, but I am going to just kind of get us going. So my name is Rachel Picharka. I am the Pennsylvania Program Associate for Solar United Neighbors. I'm joined tonight by Chris Tilden, our Go Solar Fellow. He can help answer any questions throughout the presentation. He will be working through the chat, so if you have any questions throughout, throw them in there and he'll try to get them answered. And we can also take some questions at the end of each section. So the purpose of tonight's event is it is the very first Solar 101 for Erie County. This is our Erie County Solar Co-op. And I'm going to talk to you about what the co-op is, how it works, and some of the fundamentals of going solar. So the first thing I want to do is acknowledge our partners. So they are some really amazing organizations that we work with. You may have heard of our co-op through them. You may be one of our partners if you're in here. We're so glad you came out to support us. So I just want to shout out Penn Future, Our Water, Our Air, Our Rights at Prescott Audubon, and the Sierra Club Lake Erie group. And thank you so much for working with us. We could not do this without you. And next, I'm going to go over, introduce who Solar United Neighbors is. So we are a vendor neutral national 501c3 organization. We're a nonprofit, so we are not a solar installer. What we do is education, advocacy, and community organizing for solar access. We really focus on the benefits of how it impacts everybody, both those who go solar and those who do not. I'll tell you a little bit about how we got started. So our story, we got started in 2007, thanks to our founder, Anya, who helped her neighborhood of Mount Pleasant in Washington, D.C. go solar. There were about 50 homes that all went solar at the same time. They discovered through this experience that solar can actually be a really intimidating process. It's expensive, it's a long-term investment, and there's a lot of technology as well as legal language to understand when you go solar. By pooling their resources, they were able to save money as well as rely on each other through this sometimes difficult process. And this became the model for how Sun works. You can see at the bottom that we have grown. Now we have members in all 50 states. We have programs in 11 states as well as Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. We've launched and run over 400 co-ops at this point, helping more than 9,000 people go solar through our work. And you can see our impact in Pennsylvania. We've been around since 2018. We've helped 195, I know it says 193, but we've helped 195 people go solar through our co-ops. We are really proud of these numbers. It's really exciting to think about what solar in Pennsylvania is looking like right now. And we're just at a great point for solar in general. You've probably heard about the Inflation Reduction Act and other tax credits. Just a really, really good time to be interested in going solar. I'm not going to read all through the numbers, but you can see we've made a bit of an impact. Okay, so I will go over what we'll cover today in this presentation. So we'll cover how the solar co-op works. We'll cover a section on solar technology, which goes over the nuts and bolts of how solar works and how it interacts with your house. And we'll cover solar economics and the financial aspects of going solar. And like I mentioned at the beginning, you're welcome to put your questions in the chat, and Chris will try to take care of them as the presentation goes. But I'll also stop at the end of each section and I'll address any questions you might have, and we can stop to take some time for discussion at the end. All right, so understanding the solar co-op, we'll get into that. So first, let's explore this whole concept of solar co-op. Co-op is when a large group of homeowners, nonprofits, and small businesses get to go solar all at the same time through a single solar installer. By doing that, they get a discounted rate because it's a bulk purchase. We at Sun provide consumer advocacy, technical guidance, and expertise, and answer any questions you might have. We liaise with the installer to help ensure you have a good experience when going solar. There are a lot of benefits to joining a co-op. We believe the co-op model is fantastic for helping people. It offers a really good value on installation. You also get support not just from us, but from your fellow co-op members, people who are all going solar at the same time as you. You get to connect with those people who may be in your neighborhood or area, and you can become a part of this growing solar movement. In addition to all this, everyone who joins the co-op is able to get a free customized quote for solar, battery backup, or a level 2 EV charger, and you can get a quote for any one or combination of those things. And we have a really great flow chart here that goes over the timeline for the solar co-op process. So it will change a little bit depending on the specifics of the co-op, but this serves as a general guideline for how things will go. We launched this co-op on September 23rd, and you are currently attending our first free info session, which is part of this learning phase. And you are welcome to join the co-op from here as a member. Joining is completely free. There's no obligation to go solar with the co-op installer. This is really an opportunity for you to learn about going solar in an environment where you can receive consumer protection and technical guidance along the way. We ask co-op members to help spread the word about the co-op. The more people who join, the better deal we can negotiate with the installers. And then we'll have the installer selection process. Once we get about 30 co-op members, we'll move into what's called the installer selection process. At this point, we'll issue a competitive request for proposals, RFP, for installers that service the area. They will bid competitively to try to win this co-op. The more people that are part of the co-op, the more attractive it looks to the installers, which means they'll bid even more competitively, saving you more money. And after that, we'll go through a bid review. So we will check all the references. We'll do some light vetting to ensure they're properly licensed, insured to operate in Pennsylvania. A group of co-op members, we will then volunteer to review all these bids from the installers in one night and choose a single installer to service the co-op. And then we will get into the the proposal and contract signing phase. So once we've selected the installer, they'll start reaching out to all co-op members to provide a free customized proposal that is specific to you and your energy needs, budget, and other components. The last opportunity for folks to join will be March of 2025, at which point we will start getting folks to actually sign a contract with the installer. And after signing the contract, you will have learned about going solar. You'll be in a place to decide one way or another. And if you decide to sign a contract, that'll be between you and the installer, as this will be a system of your own. The installer will then start the process of getting permits, doing interconnection, applications to your utility, and then the installation itself will take place. But up to this point, if you leave the co-op or decide now is not a good time for you to go solar, that's absolutely fine. We're just really happy to have helped you along the way. And then we'll celebrate. A few months after you've signed your contract, we'll try to have a celebration where all co-op members can come out, meet each other, and see the impact the solar has had in the community. And throughout the whole co-op process, we'll be having different events up in Erie where people can meet each other and get to know each other and ask questions with us, with the installer. So we try to bring people together through this process. Okay, so now let's talk about who picks the installer. It is very important to emphasize that co-op members choose the installer. While we at Sun facilitate the process, it's the co-op members who are ultimately getting solar through this co-op, not us. So when you join the co-op, you'll fill out a form that includes your name, contact information, addresses, so that you can see your roof and assess whether or not you're a good fit for solar. You'll also provide information about your priorities when choosing an installer. And when you're thinking about selection, if you are going to go out and choose a contractor, it's not always the best idea to go with the cheapest option. Sometimes there's a reason why they're the cheapest. So we like to think about this from a holistic perspective. Price is important, but what are some of the other things that matter to you as well? Is it their experience? Is it their local? What about the length of their warranties? There are a lot of different factors to consider. So we will compile all the priorities that co-op members, that's you, and we will then provide them to the selection committee, which will also be made of co-op members. This will help to ensure that the chosen company will best serve the needs of as many of the co-op members as possible. Right now, I know this is early on and you're just hearing about all this, but we want to see if anybody has any interest in joining our selection committee yet. We don't know the timing just yet. This is something you might be interested. You can respond to the poll that I'm about to launch on your screen. It's important to have folks join the selection committee because they'll be the ones who actually choose the installer. So let me launch this poll, and if you are interested, you can say yes. That doesn't mean you won't have a chance in the future. Once you sign up for the co-op, we'll also ask you these same questions. So, but I will launch it anyway. Okay, and I will give you all a couple minutes to take a look at this and pick. And for some people, this is not what they're interested in, and they'd like to defer this to other co-op members. That's totally fine. For other people, this is a really exciting opportunity. Say if you're an engineer or a contractor, or you just like looking at proposals, we would love to have you do that and join the selection committee. So certainly all good for everybody. But I'll give it another minute or two, just let everybody kind of get in there, answer the question if they'd like. A couple seconds. All right. Okay, so before we move on to the next section, I just wanted to stop and see if there's any unanswered questions or anything that anybody wants to bring up. Chris, you can feel free to jump in here. If not, I can move on to solar technology.
Yeah, we're good.
All right, great. Okay, so I am going to move on to the solar technology portion. Okay. When I talk about going solar, I think it's important to mention that solar is shorthand for solar photovoltaics, or solar PV, which is a technology that takes sunlight and converts it into electricity. There is other forms of solar. There's solar thermal, which is a heat-based system. We focus mainly on, or entirely on, solar PV technology. So at the heart of solar technology is the solar cell, which you can see depicted as these little blue squares here. In solar technology, silicon is the most important material that we see. Everything else in the solar panel is really there to protect those solar cells as they do all the work. The other components, such as tempered glass, polymer encapsulant, and aluminum frame, ensure that the solar cells are secure and well sealed, allowing them to last outside for about 25 years. We will go over some important terminology now. So, what's a solar array? When you string together a series of solar modules, you create what's called a solar array. This is what will be installed on your roof. It's also helpful to discuss a solar array in terms of size, measured in kilowatts, where a kilowatt equals 1,000 watts. For example, if we look at a situation where there are 12 solar panels, each rated at 350 watts, you would calculate the total array size. 12 of those 350 watt panels would create a 4,200 watt array, or a 4.2 kilowatt array. For reference, the average residential system for co-op members in Pennsylvania typically ranges from 4 to 15 kilowatts. The size of your solar system will ultimately depend on how much roof space you have, your budget, and whether you want to cover 100% of your annual energy usage or a lesser amount. If you're considering electrifying some appliances in your home, you might even want to cover more than 100%. And then it's also important to understand that watt measures instantaneous power, where a kilowatt hour represents energy production over time. This is probably something you will see on your electric bill. Right. So talk about some more exciting stuff, the racking. So when it comes to installing solar panels on your home, there are different options depending on the type of roof you have. For a typical asphalt or composite shingle roof, the installer will drill a hole through your roof down to the rafters to ensure secure connection. They will use a silicone sealant and metal flashing around the penetration point to ensure that it is completely waterproof and prevent leaks. If you have a metal roof, particularly a standing seam metal roof, it's advantageous because you can clamp the panels directly to the seams without needing to drill any holes. That's always a good thing. Different roofs have different insulation solutions, but not every installer offers every type of racking. One of the nice things about joining the co-op is that you'll find out up front whether the installer has a solution for your specific roof type, so there are no surprises as you go through the process of going solar. All right, so now let's talk about what's a good roof. There are 4 main criteria to consider. So first would be orientation. Your panels should ideally face south. They can face anywhere from due east to due west, but we don't recommend them facing north. They will absorb the most solar rays facing due south. You can still have a system that faces north, but it will get only about 60% of the solar energy. And then the second component is the shading. So you want to ensure that the panels receive ample sunlight without obstruction from nearby trees, buildings, or chimneys. And thirdly, you want to have enough contiguous space to mount the panels. The industry standard is at least 250 square feet. This is contiguous, meaning isn't interrupted by chimneys or dormers or vents. The panels all need to stay together. The more disruption points, the more the system, you lose efficiency in the system. So, and then the roof condition. Your roof should be relatively new and undamaged. Ideally, a shingle roof should be less than 10 years old, while metal roofs generally last about 50 years. So you really want to put the solar panels up and you want to leave them there if you can. It is costly to take them down to do roof maintenance or replace the roof. So if your roof is a good bit older, we always recommend either looking at this after you've gotten a new roof or maybe looking into a ground mounted system or something like that, which we will talk about next. So ground mounted solar. If your roof doesn't have enough space or the right orientation, you can consider, or you have an older roof, you can consider a ground-mounted system. Ground-mounted systems have their pros and cons compared to roof-mounted. Some advantages: you're not limited by roof pitch, and you can maximize the angle and direction of solar panels to collect more sunlight. Additionally, airflow around the panels can help improve efficiency. It keeps them cool. And then disadvantages: ground-mounted systems tend to be more expensive due to scaffolding, concrete road work, and trenching for power lines. So they can be a little bit costly compared to roof-mounted systems. And then we will talk about inverters. So solar panels absorb basically the whole process. Solar panels absorb sunlight, they produce direct current electricity, and your home operates on alternating current, so AC electricity. An inverter is necessary to convert the DC to AC so the power is usable. The inverter serves a few functions. It optimizes the efficiency of your solar system, acts as the computerized brain of the operation. It connects to the internet, allowing you to monitor your system's production via an app on your phone or laptop. You'll see 3 types of inverters on your screen here. You don't have to have a preference. Usually an installer will only offer one option for roof mounting. If the installer offers more than one type, they will make a recommendation based on your needs. Okay, And then the electric panel. This is often a really simple connection. So while most homes do not need upgrades to the panel, if you have an older home or a small service like 75 or 100 amps, you may need to upgrade the panel. But when the installer comes for a readiness inspection, they will check your panel and let you know if it'll be suitable. Most folks don't typically have problems with their electric panels. Okay. And here we can see all four of those components that I just talked about put together. We have the solar array, the solar inverter, the electric panel, and the utility meter. So we'll talk about how these all work together through the concept of net metering. To summarize this, so all this technology interacts with your home. We can look at the graphic and see that on a sunny day, your solar panels will generate electricity. This will go through the inverter. It's converted into AC electricity for use in your home. Any electricity you're not using will then flow back into the grid through a bidirectional utility meter, which is a crucial feature of net metering. If you produce more electricity than you consume, that excess energy will be credited to you, allowing you to use those credits to offset future energy costs. This is a grid-tied system. When you see these electric poles here, this means it's grid-tied. That means that while you use your solar power during the day, you'll still have access to electricity at night or during cloudy days from the grid. Through net metering, utilities give you credits for every kilowatt hour you send back to the grid, compensating you at full retail rate for your excess solar energy. Okay, and we will now talk about what your electric bill will look like. So this is a really good example of the scale of net metering. This is a recent Penelec bill for a solar customer. At the beginning of the month, they had a bank of kilowatt hours. They had 1,695 kilowatt hours credited so far for this year. So you can see that right here. And this month they took 785 kilowatt hours from the grid and they sent 985 kilowatt hours to the grid, resulting in a 200 kilowatt hour net gain. Their banked kilowatt hours were increased from that 1695 to 1895. So you can see that right here. I know I just said a lot of numbers in a row, so if you need any clarification on this, please let me know. But you can see that they are producing more than they're consuming in these summer months. So you are likely going to do that throughout the summer. And those extra kilowatt hours that you add to a bank on your bill, that will roll over from month to month. In the winter months, when you're producing less solar energy, you can deduct from this bank of kilowatt hours you've built up over the year. Ultimately, the way this works is their bill had started at about $142, which is down here. And they effectively brought their bill down from that $142 to just $10, which is due to the fixed customer charge for every utility. This customer spent nothing else on energy this month. This is what we mean when we say that solar pays for itself. So, now, net metering can get technical and complicated quickly. The main thing to remember is that it rolls over your credits month to month at that retail rate. However, this only applies from June 1st until May 31st, which is your annual billing cycle. At May 31st, any excess kilowatt hours credited to your bank will be credited at a lower price. In general, we recommend that you size your system to be only 100% of your energy usage. Going beyond that could lead to diminishing returns, regardless of regarding whether your utility is net metering you properly. This is one of the most common questions we get at Solar United Neighbors, and it can be difficult to answer because there's a lot of factors at play. You need to know how much energy you're producing, how much you consume, how much energy you export to the grid, how much you import from your utility to get a complete picture. All right, so we will move on from the bill to talk about how you would get all this information. So that's where a consumption meter comes into play. With this monitoring system, you can gain insights into your consumption within the house as well as the total amount of energy you're producing. Your utility will also monitor how much energy you export and import. It may come preloaded into some inverters, which may not incur any additional costs. In other cases, an installer can add it during installation for an additional $200 to $600. We really think it's worth it because it provides a complete picture of your system's performance. We will look at a little example here now. So in this case, you can see that the amount that the amount of solar produced during the day, you can see it rises with the sun and decreases around sunset. In orange down here, you see how much energy is being used in the home during the day. And initially, not much energy is being used until around 2 p.m. when all that energy is exported to the grid. You start consuming energy on site with some still going back to the grid. Once the sun goes away, all the energy will come from the grid since you're not generating any more power. So with this information from your consumption meter, you can determine whether you're receiving the full compensation for credits for net metering that you are owed. And now we will talk about how solar is local fuel. So with the co-op, you can get pricing for the installation of a level 2 EV charger. Many people prefer to pair an EV charger with solar because they can see where their fuel is coming from and it helps to drive the cost down. All right, so if you think about how you pay for solar, it is a set cost that you pay over the system's lifetime, which will not increase as your system ages. However, we know that electric rates tend to rise over time. In orange, you can see the cost of the grid energy rising over 25 years of the solar system, while in blue, it is levelized the cost of solar, which remains constant. This means you know how much it will cost to fill your tank at year 0 and at year 25. You really can't achieve that kind of predictability with fossil fuels. And I know the price per gallon it's probably much different than it looks on there because it fluctuates so often. But we included an example of how much you can save by powering your car with solar. So on the left is a traditional gas-powered car. We used an SUV for an example, assuming 13,500 miles per year with a fuel economy of 30 miles per gallon and gas prices around that $3.60 a gallon. This would yield about $1,600 in annual fuel costs. Cost for an electric vehicle, this is the same type of car would use 28 kilowatt hours per 100 miles with electricity costing about 15 cents per kilowatt hour. At that rate, this homeowner would spend about $567 on fuel per year, assuming approximately 1/3 of what they would spend on a gas-powered car. So big difference. So let's talk about the different types of EV chargers. So there's a level 1 charger versus a level 2 charger. When you buy an electric vehicle, it typically comes with a level 1 EV charger, which is just a plug that goes into a standard 120 volt outlet. This charger has a much slower charging speed, providing about 4 to 6 miles of charge per hour. In contrast, a level 2 charger is faster, requiring a 240 volt outlet and offering charging speeds of about 10 to 30 miles of charge per hour. These chargers also typically come with a 3-year warranty. And the final component I will talk about is batteries. So we are witnessing more weather events causing electrical interruptions. I know we didn't, but a lot of folks in our nation went through a major one down with Hurricane Helene. So we can all think about this critically. How our energy system is very vulnerable to these major electrical outages. So you can see the dark blue bars represent standard electrical outages in the US, while the light blue shows those tied to major natural disasters. These events are increasing dramatically. When you have solar, many people think that if their neighborhood loses power, but the sun is shining, they'll be fine and their home will still have power. Unfortunately, that's not true because of safety mechanism. If your system generates electricity while everyone else's power is down, it could backfeed power into the grid, which could endanger line workers. Therefore, if the power goes out in your neighborhood, you will also lose power. This is without batteries. This if you just have a grid tied system. So we'll talk about some of the value of battery storage. So if you have some important considerations for batteries, if you have critical equipment such as medical devices that need power during an outage, in those cases, battery storage would be a good option for ensuring you maintain power during outages. If you experience frequent outages or particularly long outages in the winter, having battery backup could be a benefit. And like I said, those extreme weather events, or just if you want to be prepared, however it is, we offer the option of getting a battery, getting quoted for a battery as well. But since batteries can be quite expensive, we generally recommend purchasing them only if one of those situations applies to you. Otherwise, it would be a cost-benefit analysis. And whoops. And we do have a whole battery storage guide, which I think Chris can drop the link in the chat for us. If you're interested in storage and want to know more, go to this website. And there's also a webinar available on that page and our YouTube channel, which you can learn more about how storage works and how it interacts with your solar system. Okay. So before I pause for some questions, I want to wrap up this section with some frequently asked questions that we typically get. When you're looking at going solar, there are a lot of different things that you think about, but one of the main things that we get questions about is warranties. So we'll cover what warranties look like with a solar system. So there's 3 different types. The first is the installer's warranty. This covers any damage done to your home during installation, including leaks from roof penetrations. This warranty varies really widely from installer to installer. We've seen 1-year warranties and 25-year warranties. So that can be something you consider when selecting an installer. There's also a manufacturer's warranty. This covers the specific equipment. Panels typically come with a 25-year warranty, while inverters usually have a warranty of 10 to 15 years. And then there's a power production warranty. This is from the manufacturer and specific to the panels. It ensures the rate at which your panel will degrade in efficiency over its 25-year lifespan. These warranties often state something like it will lose 2% efficiency the first year and no more than 0.5% efficiency every year after that. Okay, and then maintenance. Maintenance is actually one of the best parts of solar. It's a silent system. There's no moving parts and it requires very little of it. You do not have to get up there and wash off pollen or dust. That the rain typically takes care of it, and snow will just slide off, often just slide right off the panels. In many cases, there are really no benefits to getting up to clean the system, to clean the panels themselves. We recommend having someone check the system after about 5 years to ensure everything is still functioning well, but your installer can help you find someone to do that. And sometimes they even include it within installation. And then talk about how long a system lasts. So solar systems are generally warranted and expected to last 25 years. This doesn't mean in year 25 they stop working. They will just start to lose more efficiency over time. But because solar is a long-term investment, if you're thinking about moving in the near future, it may not be the right time for you to go solar. However, we do know that solar adds value to your property, so you may also be able to recoup some of your investment when you sell. With the solar co-op, you will be the owner of the system. You sign the contract with the installer, and the co-op serves merely as a mechanism for you to get a competitive rate for going solar. So you'll still have a membership with us for a year after the co-op ends, but the contract with your panels will be solely through the installer. And then we'll talk about the HOA. So if you live in a homeowners association or a historic district, you should let your installer know from the outset because this can involve more applications or permits. They may also need to provide additional education depending on whether your HOA is familiar with solar. But if you have any questions or concerns throughout the process, please reach out to us. We have a lot of resources and we've dealt with HOAs quite a bit over our time. So please do not hesitate to reach out with questions about that. Okay. So I'm going to stop here and see if anybody has any questions, anything that wasn't covered in the chat or anything that is worth bringing up.
Hey, Rachel, real quick.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit of question about the geographic range. Is this strictly Erie, or are we going to relax the borders at all?
It is Erie County, but it will ultimately be up to whatever installer is selected if they're willing. If it's near very close by, it'll be up to the installer whether or not they're willing to go out there. It's certainly not something that we don't know yet, but I wouldn't totally, say no to that.
Great, thanks.
All right. Okay, so I know I just talked at you all a lot, but I'm going to talk a little bit more. So we're going to wrap up with our final section, which is solar economics. Okay, so the cost of going solar has come down really drastically in recent years, especially in the last decade. The cost has dropped 65% since 2010, making it more accessible to various families, not just the wealthiest folks that we used to only see getting solar. And it provides a really good return on your investment. And many people look to save hundreds of dollars over the course of a year on their electric bills, and solar helps you achieve that. The co-op can also help you save money in going solar, which I've mentioned a few times. The reason a co-op can help you save money is that we take a large group. Our goal for this group is 100 people who all want to go solar and present them to the installer. We provide a group of highly motivated, educated homeowners interested in going solar. This bulk purchasing approach allows installers to save on materials like inverters, panels, and racking, as well as on sales and marketing costs. All those savings are then passed along to co-op members. While we can't definitely say you will save a specific percentage by going through the co-op, we have analyzed the savings co-op members have seen across the country over the last 15 years. And on average, co-op members save between 10 to 15% compared to market rate customers. That means you could save that percentage off the top of your system cost and then start realizing your savings. Okay, so this is our pricing table, and I will mainly focus on the column for average residential size systems in Pennsylvania. For example, the average Pennsylvania co-op solar pricing for a 10 kilowatt system has a sticker price of $27,000. If you take the federal tax credit, which is a 30% tax credit, you would reduce the cost by $8,100. Then you add in the amount you'll have returned to you through the sale of your solar renewable energy credits or SRECs, and this will bring your net cost down to about $1,700. Now, every year you'll save money on electricity, similar to previous net metering example. For a 10 kilowatt system, you'd save about $2,200 in year one. You see that right down here. Those savings will accumulate every year. You'll save more money. Moreover, as utility rates increase, the value of the electricity generated by your solar system will also rise, even if your system becomes slightly less efficient over time. By year 10, you'll have saved $23,000, and over the course of 25 years, you could see savings of approximately $66,000. By the end of that period, you'd actually see a net profit of nearly twice what you initially spent. So, like I said, this is an estimate, and this is based off of our average PA solar co-op pricing, which is about $270 a watt. And this is all on the co-op website as well, so you can reference this again. And then I mentioned the solar renewable energy credits or SRECs. That is another source of revenue associated with solar. Every time you generate and export 1,000 kWh or 1 MWh of solar energy, you receive a credit, which is called an SREC, which can be bought and sold on the market. Utilities pay for these credits to claim they are procuring energy from solar and other renewable resources. And since they are bought and sold on the market, their value can vary. We run estimates for the first 5 years and predict the market value, but after that, it's pretty difficult. Currently, the value is around $30 to $35 per SREC, which could yield an additional income of about $1,800 over the first 5 years. Okay, so we'll talk about tax credits and financing. I think it's really important to drill down on this tax credit. This is the investment tax credit worth 30%. If you go solar this year or next year, you can reduce your taxes by 30% of the cost of going solar. If you don't have the full tax appetite to take that credit, you can roll it over for up to 5 years. For anything related to the tax credit, we highly recommend talking to a tax professional to get a second opinion. The nice thing about the 30% tax credit is that it has been extended to 2032, so you can be assured it's not going away anytime soon. And talk about some financing options. There are a few different ways to pay for your solar system. First is the cash option. This option has the highest upfront cost, but maximizes savings. Everything after that will be savings on your electric bill. Secondly, there is a grant program from the USDA called the Rural Energy for America program, or REAP. This is a fantastic program that can give you a grant for up to 50% the cost of going solar, which you can stack with the tax credit. This means you could potentially take off 80% of the cost of going solar. This grant is available for farmers, agricultural producers, and rural small businesses. We have produced at Sun, Solar United Neighbors has produced a whole REAP guide because it's such a great opportunity and many people still haven't heard of it or don't know about it. It is pretty competitive, but we highly recommend looking into it if you think you would qualify. Chris can put, or he may have already put that link to the REAP guide in the chat if you're interested, or to our website on REAP. Okay, and we will talk about loans. So there are many loans available to homeowners for going solar. I highly recommend visiting our page at solarunitedneighbors.org/financing. Chris can also put that in the chat. This page has many good resources regarding various loan products and options for financing a solar system. The most common financing option we see is through a home equity line of credit. Installers often offer their own financing through third-party companies. And as a co-op member, you will also have access to loans from the Clean Energy Credit Union or Community First Credit Union, which often have low interest rates. Okay. So we will look at a financing example now. So we're going to compare the same two systems we looked at from before, the 5 kilowatt and the 10 kilowatt. We're looking at two loan types. One is a 10-year loan, and the other is a 15-year loan. In both cases, we're looking at a home equity line of credit with a 7% interest rate, where you take 30% down and then apply the tax credit. In the case of the 15-year loan, you'll see a net monthly payment. However, the payback period is 15 years. In contrast, the 10-year loan has a lower net monthly payment, but a 10-year payback period. In both scenarios, you can see that the net profit is less than with the cash option. That's always going to be true, but it will ultimately come down to comparing loan terms and understanding if you're looking for a lower monthly payment versus lower total interest paid. Okay, and we'll talk about EV charger costs. We want to give you an idea of what to expect for this. So the charging unit itself ranges from $500 to up to about $1,000 or a little more. This is for a level 2 EV charger. Installation costs can vary significantly, ranging from $500 to $2,000. Your total cost can be anywhere from $1,000 to $4,500. These costs may include drywall work if necessary, but the significant factor is that any added length between where the charger is installed and where your car is parked translates to additional copper wire, and that's the really expensive part. So keeping everything close together can help minimize costs. So if you have your solar array installed and your bi-directional utility meter and your EV charger all within the same area of your outdoor space, then you will be able to minimize the cost of installing an EV charger. So, but there are also EV charger incentives. These are available federal, state, and sometimes local levels for purchasing EV chargers and electric vehicles. We have information about those incentives on the co-op webpage. Okay, so now we'll talk about the fun part, joining the solar co-op. So Chris will put the address for the solar co-op webpage in the chat. When you are ready to join the co-op, we are here for it. We really are excited about this. You'll see this page when you sign up. If you don't see this page, you have not signed up for the co-op. There's a lot of other information available on there, including the EV information, which includes the incentives I just mentioned, and those pricing tables that I went over before. And now we'll talk about, sorry, my cat. We'll talk about some upcoming events. So we have an event next week. This is our Erie County Solar Tour, which we are really, really excited about. This will take place next Saturday, October 19th from 11 to 2 p.m. I want to invite all of you to come out and bring a friend. It's going to be a great opportunity to see solar close up and find out more about the experience of going solar firsthand from our hosts. Chris will drop the link to sign up for it in the chat now, but you can also find it under the events page on our co-op website. But like I said, it's a really, really great opportunity. And I personally know our hosts are excited, and we'll just be able to help you so much with all that. I am actually going to throw a little poll in here just out of curiosity to see how many folks might be interested in coming out for the solar tour. So if you wouldn't mind taking a second and just answering that and seeing if anybody's interested, that would be great. We have one home in Edinburgh and two other places up in Erie. So if no matter where you're at in Erie County, you can go and see a solar installation. Great. Thank you all so much for answering. Give it another couple seconds. Okay, and like I said, that information will also be on our website for the co-op, and Chris dropped the link in the chat as well. So I'm going to end this poll now. All right, so okay. So we'll talk about some other fun stuff like volunteering, and you all are gonna hate me, but I'm gonna give you one more poll now. Um, we are always looking for volunteers to help us spread the word about the co-op. This is how we get a good bid from the installers. So there's a lot of different ways you can help us, whether it's as simple as putting out a yard sign or sharing the recording of this webinar with a friend or family member. If you are interested in helping spread more solar in Erie County, please respond to the poll. We'll let you know how you can get involved. This is pretty much the end of the presentation. So I'll stop after this and see if anybody has any more questions. But yeah, thank you all so much for being here. I know a lot of you have already helped us so much that are on this call. So we'll give it another couple seconds with this, and then I will stop and see if anybody has any questions. All right. Thank you all so much.